Just now.
This is Joe Valentine this is the Academy Community Center Building Committee regular meeting. I call the meeting to order. And I would like to get through the agenda, start with the approval of the prior minutes on February 12th. Are there any comments? Any questions? Any updates?
I'll move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Chair's comments?
Joe on that?
Oh, no, John would be online.
John, sorry. Joe. No, not yet. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, that's true.
Chair's comments, just a note that we had a meeting that there was a presentation to the board last night, Board of Selectmen, and they have, they're in general agreement with what we are planning to do. Look at what the building would look like if it were, if it met the original design, and also what it would cost, and what the building would look like if it was, if we were constrained to a 15.9 budget. We've been asked to flesh that out to get all the costs in, or all the costs out, depending on which we're working on. And that's one of the things we're going to, or that's probably the main thing we're going to do today. Okay. Liaison reports out. Don't be surprised, Al. You look so, it's number 3 on the list if you're a liaison.
For anybody interested in learning about geothermal systems, the well drilling is about to begin out back for this building.
Oh,
Very good.
We're good.
No, nothing else, Joe.
okay. Invoice packets, are there any invoices to be approved? Any transfers? College's report, I'm trying to think where we fit all of our work that we're going to do. Review and replace how big the building cost is 10. But John, do you want to prep us for that in any way? I know you handed out some materials.
Yes.
Or would you just do it when we get to 10?
We can do that when we get to 10. I can skip to that.
So you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Tom, same with you.
I don't have anything else this time.
Okay. Public comment. Before Jeannie, before Austin has something that he'd like to add, but is there anyone online with their hand up?
You go first.
Okay. Austin?
Thanks.
Recognize Austin.
Thanks, Joe. So I don't have a comment personally, but this is Scott Cochran wasn't able to make it here tonight. And he wrote a letter to the building committee that he'd like me to read, if that's okay. So again, this is from Scott Cochran from Madison Youth and Family. I'm sending this note ahead of the Academy Building Committee meeting that is scheduled for Tuesday the 27th on behalf of the staff and board of MYFS. I'll be out of town and will be unable to attend. I hope to attend remotely, but will not be able to do more than observe. As Youth and Family has been consistently maintained as a part of the renovation plan, I'm also aware of the ongoing concerns for the budget gap. I want to express a few things for the record, as I know the committee is in the middle of the process to determine the budget priorities for the renovation of the Academy. I know that the committee must plan for the building's essential construction needs first, such as the building envelope and mechanicals. As I speak to certain priorities, I am speaking to those priorities that will be considered after the core construction needs. As the committee takes on the challenge of setting priorities for what may be a phased renovation, I want to express my view as Director of Youth and Family Services and a member of the Academy Advisory Committee, that the proposed renovated space for youth and families should remain as a priority, along with space needed by Beach and Rec to staff the building. As the two departments identified for the building and as they were approved at the referendum, our space allocation should be prioritized. A critical consideration for Madison Youth and Family to be included as a priority is pending special projects federal grant application. That grant, if approved, would require the building to be renovated as a multi-purpose facility that includes mental health services. That grant could result in as much as $3.6 million additional dollars to the project. In addition to those reasons, Madison Youth and Family Services foresees its role in the building as a part of its core purpose and will immediately help to draw the youth and families that participate within our programs and services. We would also foresee collaborating with and supporting the work of Beach and Rec to attract other programs and activities to the building as it opens. I would also point out that a delay in renovating our academy space would cause further ripples to the future use of our building at 10 School Street, while further stressing our programs and services that are in desperate need of this new space. Lastly, Scott points out the added work and expense to the town if it needs to renovate our proposed academy space twice, first for some other purpose and then again ours. It would also not make sense to leave that area unfinished and unused when it opens. I know this committee has a difficult task in making some decisions, and there are many considerations for what the building may be able to accommodate within the current budget. On behalf of Madison Youth and Family Services, I feel the committee should consider the factors as expressed in this email and to keep the Madison Youth and Family Services in the renovation plan as it has been all along. While he is currently advocating for youth and family services, he hopes the committee can also trust in our commitment to the town to help make the future Academy Community Center a success for everyone. He is very aware of the needs expressed for the community center by the community. And ultimately, he and the department share in that vision for Academy. Sincerely, Scott Cochran, Director of Madison Youth and Family Services.
Thank you, Austin. Can we enter that into the record? Thank you. Will Stableford? Public comment?
First of all, I would like to commend you for a superb presentation last night. And I think that your presentation with Joan and AJ supporting your presentation left a very favorable impression in the eyes of all 5 select persons. That was my impression. And I think that quality of presentation will go a long way towards helping the select men to understand the needs of this project, and should the time come when they decide to request more money from the town through a referendum, it will be critical, if that comes to pass, that all 5 selectmen are visibly and publicly in favor of that. I think your presentation went a long way last night to doing that. So I thank you all. I'd like to make a brief comment about the unenviable forced choices that I know you guys face. And one particular concern I have is the entrance, which I've expressed before. When I think about the forced choice that you guys face, by installing stairs and a ramp, you can save $500,000. That's a lot of money. When I take the long view about how people will react to this, not only now, but should this building last 50, 80, another 100 years, whatever decision you guys make about the front entrance is going to be there forever. First of all, precedent. I've visited the Branford Community Center, Guilford, Clinton, Old Saybrook. They all have entrances on grade. None of those community centers have stairs required. And technically, the stairs and the ramp would meet ADA requirements. That is true. But a point you made last night, Joe, there are a lot of people who may not specifically have a disability, but would face challenges using those stairs and the ramp. In the last month or so, I've spent many hours sitting inside the entrance of the Scranton Library selling raffle tickets. And there are a lot of young parents in this town that come in with strollers in one hand and one or two other little tykes in the other. And for them to face the stairway and the ramp will not be easy. And I can imagine the senior citizen bus showing up and 20 octogenarians get off. They may not need a wheelchair, but what are they going to think about? You actually have to climb stairs. There are a lot of people that come into the library with walkers, canes, wheelchairs. That's the nature of our population today. And you have to remember, this is the first thing they're going to see when they arrive. And again, taking the long view, should we go with the original entrance with the elevator on grade level? Yes, it will mean a present day sacrifice of some of the feature of the building, and that's not easy. Nobody likes that. But those are other features that could be added later, whatever they are, whatever feature in the building has to go. And I think like this is going to open in 2026. You built stairs? People are going to wonder. So anyway, I know there's a range of opinion on this. I respect everybody's ideas and opinion. I just wanted to share mine. And I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Doug.
And Joe, there is somebody who raised their hand.
What was that? Oh,
Somebody raised their.
oh, okay.
Kevin,
Hi, this is Kevin Ovian. I'm at 317 Boston Post Road. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for a minute. So I have a question about the timing of the project. So when the referendum was presented to the town, and all the work leading up to it was done by Colliers and by Tom and the current architecture group. The high level timeline was to start construction in 2023 and to complete in 2024. And, you know, both of these firms have been since selected by the committee to move the project forward. And can somebody give me a high level summary of why the project is behind schedule in terms of time?
I think we're doing our best to try to get to that 15.9 million. And we've gone through meeting after meeting to try to value engineer, and look at this to try to make the budget. And I think that was time consuming, quite honestly. The other piece of it was that we were not seated as quickly as the school committee was, the new building committee was, because they had a hard deadline have to open September of 2024, correct?
25.
25. Right. So the priority as far as seating, you know, because there's only so many things you can do with volunteers as far as making sure people are interviewed and make sure that they're committed to coming onto the building committee and things like that. So it took a while for us, and we took our time because we wanted to make sure that we had enough information to bring to the public.
Right, thank you. I just had one follow-up question. Since Colliers is hired as the OPM to serve in this capacity to make sure that, you know, the complexities of construction are understood, and I mean, that is a very key role, and Colliers had the role before the referendum and then was hired after. I would like to hear from Colliers, you know, why do they think the project is delayed?
I'll recognize John Koplis to answer that, but after that, we'll take further comment, Kevin, but we won't, we need to move forward with the meeting.
Okay, thanks.
No, John Koplis was going to answer.
from Colliers Project Leaders. I mean, to Joan's point that you already touched on, there was a delay in getting the building committee seated. So that resulted in a time consuming process. There was also, to her point, a challenge in trying to get the design to match the budget. And that has been an ongoing challenge for Tom and for QAM to provide a design that will not only satisfy the program requirements, but also satisfy the budget. And a big challenge with the budget is that the costs that were presented at the referendum, at the time of the referendum, did not anticipate the extent of escalation that had occurred in the 2021 and the 2022 years. Both of those years, escalation was about 8.5%. At the time of the referendum, that was projected to be about 4%. So that has helped to exacerbate, if you will, the budget challenges. And the other major challenge with respect to the costs, and that's something we're going to be getting into this evening and was touched on last night by Joe, was the MEP components of the building, the existing facility, the anticipation and hope from both Colliers and QAM at the time of the referendum was that at least some, if not a good portion of the MEP components, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing within the building would be able to be salvaged and reused. And upon further investigation by the engineer, it was determined that essentially the guts of the building were not reusable. So that has also helped to impact the budget and the cost for the building renovations. So all those combined have resulted in some of the challenges with not only the budget, but also the time schedule. If that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate all the work that the board is doing on this project. Thank you.
You're welcome, Kevin. Are there any other, anyone else to be recognized? Okay, John, we got to number 10. This is the review and reconcile the building costs versus the original budget. And before we get into the numbers, my sense from yesterday evening was that we're still being asked what we originally intended to do, which was bring together a scope and programming that would equal a budget of $15.9 million firm. But the second part of that, there's a second part to that asked for the budget for full build out of the original design. We had come together with an approximation of that at our last meeting. But there were some elements of the original design that were dropped in value engineering after the initial ST phase or at the ST phase. My sense was that some of those or all of those could go back in. That would escalate the budget number a little further, maybe not just a little, but it would give a full approximation. It would give a better approximation of what we thought the original design would look like based right from the start. And the one that comes to mind immediately is the skylight over the courtyard and to allow natural light to come in. That's the one I hated to give up. And my sense was from last night, maybe we have some people who were there and other people who listened, was that a request that you felt was made last night, that if there was something in the original design and specifically the skylight, would that then be something we would be putting back in now at this point?
My takeaway was that two things. One is to continue down the road of, like you said, getting to that 15 number. But also then maybe step B would be build it as the original referendum was, skylight and everything, and see what that number is. And give both back to the board of select people to see if, one, they can come up with additional money, or two, we have to proceed with the value engineered option.
So I have a little bit more nuanced, because I think one thing is we want to take what was going to referendum and basically take the exact same procedure and cost it out as if it was current day. So you could say, here's apples and apples. So if we were to go to referendum now with this same original design, because the design has changed even from the referendum, the very first design that we saw is slightly different from the original referendum. So let's just say, okay, here's the referendum, that's what was passed. Here's, if we were to cost out now that exact same amount, this is what it would cost. And now look at what we're looking at from a design standpoint, and here's what we're recommending. Because to me, one of those things would be justification to remove out the geothermal and go with a different thing. So that to me is something that we're saying, okay, this is the original, here's what it would cost now, and here's what we're recommending under the current design and where we are at in this design phase as to what we think should be in the budget for that.
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, but I think we need to have that, in order for the public to understand, I think, the significance of the increase of the costs of construction, that second, that, comparative to if we were to go to budget right now with the with the exact same numbers, this is what it would cost. So that would then allow us to talk through what we've saved, what we're giving, what we're putting in, what we're giving up, and this is what we feel is a good compromise for a building going forward, which would be the non-stairs, the skylight, and a few other
A
things.
kitchen.
The kitchen,
An actual kitchen.
an actual kitchen and an actual stage.
Is
right?
is that even possible? Like, we never did.
Well, he did part of
Construction.
that, didn't you? A few weeks ago, you started putting some numbers down. You didn't get into total
We didn't do
detail.
DD.
But I think we used the
Right.
MVP stuff as an example, right? You had the existing and the original, right? Then you had to revise with the new scope or.
Yeah, that
Replacing-
comparative analysis is in the chart a little bit, we
Right.
align the numbers.
Right. But I don't know how you would do a direct escalation on MEP when the scope of the MEP has changed.
But that's what we're saying. We're trying to say that it's, at least tell the public, the MEP has, if the MEP stayed exactly the same, this is would be the cost, and that's,
We'd have to go back to DD and get a new estimate for that original design from the referendum.
not DD, because it didn't go to DD for an estimate. It went to a rough number estimate at the time. We talked about per square footage, the dollar figure and things like that, and what I requested was like, okay, what is that dollar figure for square footage for heavy construction this time?
See this look of stupidity? I'm completely lost.
She wants you to take the list.
sorry.
But Joe, like,
No, can I explain what I want, okay?
Yeah.
So, where, do we have the estimate that went out to referendum? It's like a page and a half. It was based on general construction
Yeah,
dollars. Right?
light renovation.
Light renovation, heavy renovation. If you were to do this exact thing in $2,024, that's what we're looking for. That's
No.
the first piece, that's what Bruce Wilson, that's the Board of Selectmen requested this.
I don't-
He wanted to have apples and apples.
In order to be apples to apples, it needs to be a little more refined, like we're in DD phase.
No,
We have to
but
take
no,
that.
but we're gonna get to that. But in order to explain to the public, this is what you voted on. And in current 2024 numbers, this is what it would be. And now we're at DD phase, and this is what we're saying we want to do.
No, I don't think that was.
That wasn't my.
I thought what he asked us to do was to put add a column that has the full project with all of the scope in it, the 18.5 or 18.8 number.
That's my,
So that the public can see, hey, relatively you'd be at 18.8, and then you've made some sacrifices and you're at 17.8. That's.
But it wouldn't be,
No,
it wouldn't
that's-
be, it wouldn't be 18.8 either. It would be greater. Just again, the
It would be.
You'd be putting the geothermal, if you're doing.
Well,
like-
1880, the geothermal included, 1880 included geothermal, but it included, I mean, I have the list here, things that we
Yeah.
took out.
The skylight's a perfect example.
Remove, but the skylight's an example, 78,000. Remove the Academy street facade upgrades, that was 129,000, we took that out, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We'd have to add those back in.
So I don't know if we want to, but I don't, again, I'm trying to think what else we remove the drywall ceilings in lieu of SATC. Remove drywall ceilings in the offices.
Right, but as a former member of the Board of Selectmen, I know how the presentation they want to do to the public. They want to say, this is what you voted on. And if we were to put this out to referendum, can you hear me out? If we were to put this out to referendum in this date, this is what it will cost. But we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to give you, because we're further along in the design, we've made some design changes. This should, I mean, Al, you were sitting next to Bruce, and when he said it, what would this cost?
I think
Because
the
we got,
selectmen are looking for three numbers from this committee. The first number is, what can you give us for 15.9? The second number is, what's your best recommendation on the various compromises you had to make to get us a building that approximates what the expectation we created. And the third number is, if we delivered the exact building that we created an expectation on at referendum, what would that number be?
and to me, the easiest way to do that is to say, this is what we,
That's not,
Estimated
that's
out,
not true.
though.
That's not even schematic design. That's back of the napkin estimate. Again, we'd have to take the original design up to the point where we are today, go back to the estimators and make sure everything's correct. With real numbers, today's number.
I think what Joan is saying is if these numbers are from 2021, just add escalation to each one of these lines, depending on what it is and what's the number.
I guess.
That's
the
not really
difference-
accurate.
I'm just-
We're not gonna be able to build,
I'm not sure.
We couldn't deliver, we
Right,
couldn't
that's
actually
saying-
deliver a building for
That's-
that amount of
we
money.
couldn't deliver it based upon, but
That's
just
not
escalating
accurate,
those.
because like you need new electrical, right? So the
When
original
I previous
assumed-
point about scope has changed.
so you actually
right,
couldn't
but we,
deliver the
but
building
we
for
could
that amount.
speak to why the scope has changed. Because at the time of the estimate, this is what we knew, and now the scope has changed, and that's why this number is different. And it's even,
What I heard was go from 0 up.
well, that was,
The original design started at 0 and go up and say, deliver this, what's everything you actually need. Not escalate it.
And
also-
go ahead. No, I have enough.
Well, if I'm hearing Joe correctly, basically what we would need to do with the referendum numbers is remove the escalation number and replace it with what the actual escalation was to get from the original to $2024.
We'd be shorting ourselves though, because it's actually, there's,
do we know?
let me, hold on, let me speak. There's a double whammy effect. The first effect is that the heavy and light escalation that's in the original budget is short. Because it doesn't recognize that everything needs to be replaced. So that, you start with that number has to be bigger. Then you add bigger escalation to already a bigger number, and you get a much bigger number, and that's what we're facing. That's why that number is the number in that we showed last night was $3.3 million. Because it wasn't escalation, it wasn't just the additional scope, it was the double effect of both of those that drove us that high.
And one
I mean, that's math, that's not knowing architecture at all, that's just the arithmetic of it.
Some of those numbers were just off. Parking lot, landscaping, septic
Yes.
system,
Yes.
electrical,
So
mechanical.
so this is kind of a lessons learned. Like, next time we go do one of these projects and.
Well, no, I'm not saying that was a bad estimate. For the time where they were, it was not even, it was a conceptual design, back of the napkin kind of numbers. That's accurate. But what Joe is saying, we know today we need new septic, we need new electrical, we need new mechanicals. All the windows need to be replaced, right?
They're asking for sprinkler systems.
Sprinkler systems
Didn't-
that were not in there, and they would have
Right, that's-
been expected to be in there. So if we were to do a zero up today to say what would it cost to actually build what we proposed in the referendum, we need to start from zero using today's dollars, using these kinds of estimate numbers to figure out what that really is, rather than come up with some other fictitious number by just escalating those things in the referendum. We have to start from a zero and build up. In my opinion.
Al, could you give us the three again?
Now, what we can build for 15.9,
Yeah,
Well, we can go for
what would it cost to build the referendum, and then what the difference is and what we would take
what,
out.
what we would recommend.
What we
Yes.
would recommend to get to that 15.9 if we can't get
And,
additional
and,
money.
and to the second thing you mentioned, what would it build what would it cost to build from, the 15.9 estimate? That would include everything that we talked about in what we did last time, plus things that we took out that we either want to put in, or maybe even don't want to put in, but we have to put those back in to get to that maximum number.
Yep, and then just to sort of make a point that John was making in his email earlier. We need to asterisk or somehow mark out those special things that were grossly misestimated, septic system, for example, electrical. So we could say, we thought we were using the windows, we thought that we could reuse the septic system. You know, those kinds of things, and just kind of footnote those in that differential or the delta.
So Tom, have you faced this, is this uncharted territory for you, or have is this a been there, done that?
No, but what's a little uncharted is I guess.
My feedback from sitting in on the meeting last night was pretty much the same as Al already said. We've got three things to hit. One is, if we force it to 15.9, what does it look like? Number two is, what is our best value engineered recommendation? And then the third is, if we build it out as originally spec'd, what does it cost? And Al, is that close to what you were asking for?
better than I did, yes.
I
Yeah,
think what
that's-
that's up is that you could, like, if you just took all those numbers and added 20%, it doesn't actually deliver a building. So are we telling a narrative that to the public that is true to the, like, there is no $17 million.
But the narrative would be, this is what you voted on, this is what it would cost now. However, on top of that, we have all of these other pieces that weren't anticipated when it did go to referendum. So even if, that's my point. These are the other unanticipated things. So here's a dollar, and this is what we've tried to reverse engineer to make it more reasonable.
And these other unanticipated things are not optional.
No,
Yeah.
no, right. There's some optional, but a lot of them, you can't, the
I think
fire
we're
system.
all saying the same thing, it's just how do we get to that
Right.
bigger number?
Yeah, just how do you
I
represent
think,
it?
like, as an exercise in time,
Mhm.
I think we can do the 15.9.
Right.
I think that's something that's doable right now.
Yeah.
And considering 15.9 is about $4 million less than what we thought we should spend, this should be a short exercise. We shouldn't have to go very far to get this. And this is with current cost, right? We would look at,
The sheet is,
Yes.
yeah, based on current estimates, which are in the other document that you have there, the blue one, if you will. Those are the two estimates, reconciled numbers on the far right. And those numbers that are used and reflected on this other, let's say 17 sheet.
So this is basically the whole, maybe you can walk us through what we should be looking at and how you kind of.
Sure. So again, there's two documents that I handed out. The first one is the single page 11 by 17 document.
Does Jean have that in
I do.
electronic format?
I don't have it online.
Anytime we are given something, if you could give it to Jean in.
Did you email it?
I emailed, I thought you were on this.
Sent out.
Yeah, yeah, it was sent out. I sent it out about an hour before the meeting.
So I don't have it. Pull up because I'm doing it through here.
You're there, okay.
441.
I mean, so the whole committee should have it. I see everybody.
You want me to go get it?
Yeah, just see if we, in the meantime, so that the public can see it, as we're doing this.
Do you want? us
He
to
did
send
just
you-
share it.
Can you share?
I can share it. I got your meeting.
Oh, there you go.
Don't join the.
That's easier.
Don't join.
Okay, let's see. Let's see what I got. I'll share.
Yeah. Oh, actually, it is not signed into the meeting. AJ. He's got his last name.
Does John have it? Because he's already on.
John, do you have that
Yes,
document?
it was on the email.
Do you have it in electronic format, John? Because you're already on the meeting. Can you share it? You're muted.
I got AJ, it's on.
Which document are you looking for?
The spreadsheet,
The two that were emailed about an hour ago, or an hour before the meeting.
Pull them up.
Late this afternoon.
Ratio.
who's gonna get there first?
They're separate docs, so I'll have to share them with the docs too.
You go to the first one, you go to this one first,
Actually, it may make a little more sense.
whatever you choose. Really use the
See which
second
one, which one do you? If you can pull the, this one up, it'll be this, the second of the two. that was on. Yes, thank you.
John,
So-
before you start,
Oh.
just to make us a tiny bit happy, is there a crosswalk? Is there a place where we will find the connection between these two documents?
Typically, yes. Typically.
Okay.
I mean, some of the numbers are a combination of some of the numbers in this document, so. I mean, if you let me explain, I can hopefully
Well,
answer that.
why don't you walk us through?
Take it away.
So, the first document, the one that is, on the shared screen, is the reconciled estimates from the two estimators during the design development phase, of the, project. So what this is doing is taking, starting on the far right, the, estimators are both Keys and Gibbons, are the two companies. And the two first columns on the first two columns on the left are their numbers as they come in, initially. So those are all input into the, spreadsheet. At the reconciliation meeting, which was held on the 19th of January, those numbers are then compared and contrasted between the two estimators, along with Collier's and, Tom's, with the architect. And ultimately, those reconciled numbers are then, put on the right column, column G on this document. So those reconciled numbers are in column D. Okay, any questions so far? No? Okay. So those columns, or excuse me, those numbers ultimately on the last page are added up to equate to the, total construction before the markups. Then you have the markups, which are based on that construction number, and those are percentages that are calculated on the construction cost. And those reconciled numbers are also added in within column D. And you then have the total construction amount, which includes, the markups. You then factor in the escalation, which is equivalent to the additional costs, to the project based on when the construction is to begin. And that number is, about 219 million, or excuse me, 219,000. And then adding those numbers all up will equate to the total estimated construction number for the project.
And what number is that on the sheet you gave?
The red.
Yes. $13,652,700.
Without the
For the sheet you gave me that we used last night, the reconciled DD estimate with alternates, that's with alternates.
That's with alternates, yes. This does not have the
That's the
alternates.
13 plus the 2.4. And the scope. So everything, we talked about windows, doors, thermal. That's what came out of last meeting where we said we should include this or not include this? Thank you.
So is there a reason why the markup numbers are lower on the spreadsheet than they are on the reconciliation sheet? Let's call spreadsheet reconciliation sheet. I'm good. For nomenclature.
Because
Yes.
he's only marking out the scope that he pulled out,
That is pulled out.
so he's not,
Got it.
so if you're doing a
Yep,
smaller.
okay, yep, I get it, I get it, I get it. Nope, completely get it now. Okay,
Okay.
this is good. So that we are on the same page.
So,
Markup will be less because we pulled stuff out still.
right.
Okay.
So the document that's on the screen and in front of you are the breakout of the project's costs per the DD set of documents by the two estimators. And this is a format that's used as far as the different divisions and the portion components of the construction. So taking these numbers, the other document, the single page 11x17 document is.
Can we show that?
Sure, please.
What number are you taking, John? Just give me the dollar numbers.
Well, I'm taking various numbers out of column D.
That come to, that get moved over here, except for the markups. Because the markups exclude the base. Okay,
All right, so
let's go to.
going through this entire document.
Right.
What I did was I selected, and again, this is subjective,
Mhm.
but selected on the upper left corner on the screen are the line items and the associated costs of the items that are associated with the construction that are considered must-haves. In fact, the whole left half of the sheet are considered must-have components or items factored into the construction cost. So the demolition of the interior components of the building, $721,400. The associated concrete work, the masonry, the structural steel, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that associated with the building totals the $8,168,000. I then did a subset for the site work.
John, stop.
Sure.
Which, for the building construction, which of the two entrances did you use?
This is based on the original design.
This is original, for building construction, this page
As is this. Both documents
are
are
original.
assuming it's the original design.
Okay.
Elevator is at the, upon the entrance. There is no steps, there is no ramp.
Entrance is at grade.
Yes, I agree.
Right.
Original design.
Original design.
And rather, if we shoot to the alternate design, we're just gonna take the $500,000 off the bottom, so to speak, because otherwise this would just be too painful to try to take each individual piece. The rough estimate of the $500,000 savings. Okay.
Mhm.
I think that.
Right, Tom? Is that-
That's correct.
Yeah.
And just if I can clarify John's effort a little bit, there are some lines here that attribute to scopes of work. So if you look at roof replacement of existing roof
Mhm.
or window replacement should be in there somewhere, so I'm missing it. But that might be.
Interior windows and skylight.
Oh,
Yeah.
exterior windows and skylight glazing. So you've got the roof, you've got the windows, you've got masonry repair, you've got all the work associated with the entrance and elevator and accessibility. You've got the HVAC, the plumbing and the electrical systems all being replaced in full. You're adding sprinklers. You're putting in an automated building control system. That's what Felicia talked about a couple meetings ago. And communications. And that's everything at the top.
Where did you add the sprinklers? Where did you say that?
Fire protection system. Yeah, that's our fancy technical term.
So that wasn't in the original design, but it's a revised design, but it's the DD design, but it's necessary.
It's necessary.
In this, okay,
Okay.
so in this, the add alternates are not included in here, right? So for example, geothermal's not in here, septic's not in here.
Septic is
Septic is added on the,
Septic's in here.
Is the new sanitary system?
Yeah, that's a septic.
As-
So in the I'm sorry, Al. So
253?
in the second category here,
Okay.
the second green site construction, you'll see there's a site prep and demo, the minimum amount of site work that has to be done to support the project.
Yeah.
The sanitary system, that's the septic system. So when we present this, maybe it wants to be cleaned up and stuff can be bunched together. So it reads a little easier. I think Joe's presentation last night did a great job in simplifying it for the selectmen. You know, we're over budget because we had additional mechanical systems work and some code work, and that was great because it was very clean, right? Water line to support the sprinklers, and then the abatement, that $550,000 of hazardous material, that has to be done. And then these are the markups associated with that scope of work. So the base scope of work is approximately 9.3 million. And then you add in all the markups, design and estimating contingency. These are all percentage based, and that gets us to 11.5 in construction cost. So, and we had to get 12 million.
we have $12,180,900.
So we have about 6 to 7.
But, excuse me, there's also the escalation that is added into that. So there's another 200,000 in addition to the 11,445,000. So the construction and escalation cost is 11,645,700. So out of the $12,180,900 construction budget originally submitted for the referendum, the balance is $535,200.
And that's what we should look at on the right side, this red side, to say, okay, this is what we're gonna get for our 15.9. Okay,
So.
for the project.
And one other note. So you have $535,000 left, but you have to apply markups to any base scope that you do of 20%. So you really only have 410,000 to spend on these items, so to speak. And then those things will get marked up by approximately 20% or whatever that percentage is. So it's not a lot.
Right.
And then the alternates aren't actually on this list.
No.
Right?
So can you succinctly say, just in a few words, what each of those building construction pieces equate to? I think I know what flooring is, but like interior wall partitions.
Those are your sheetrock walls, you know, the building interior framing, the breakout, fit out of the office spaces of the, family youth and services, beach and rec, spaces.
So basically, all of the interior non-structural walls.
Yes.
For the entire building.
So basically, it's the footprint we have now, basically.
Yes.
So the red,
Right.
what's in red is sort of what we saved.
No, red is what is still left to be completed per the DD drawings. That is not considered, or that I did not consider necessary for, base scope of work. Like all of the stuff on the left side essentially has to be done to address, the building, code-related issues,
Okay.
Building envelope, the roof, the windows, et cetera. And, fire safety, mechanicals, to at least give the building the ability to exist without being compensated by not having the proper HVAC system or, not being properly.
Could you get a CO at that level?
At that level,
For what?
yeah, there wouldn't be anything inside.
Well, I mean, just,
Occupancy purposes.
let's,
Well, if,
just as a,
I mean-
as the very base, does this give us
We have
a
studs,
CO?
open water.
It-
Right?
I guess it would.
If the building's clean, there's no hazards in it. I think so. You walk into the existing classroom. You
Are the
could,
existing classrooms painted and?
no.
no, that's the painting.
Yeah, but like any demolition that was done is not repaired, right?
Correct.
So when all the wires were ripped out, they
Holes in
opened those
walls.
channels up, so there's studs, exposed wires, no flooring.
Well, no, there wouldn't be exposed wires, because that would be part of the electrical scope.
Yeah, but if I cut a bay open and replace the wires, that base will open.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I thought you.
So, yeah, not hanging and sparking, I understand that, but.
If maybe I could simplify it a little bit, I think the reality is the project still has contingency, there's, the scope would, the base scope would be finished. But the project has, in simple terms, a $2 million gap, correct? About, the VE.
Right.
That's what we were talking about. The 2 million gap is essentially, redoing the parking lot and exterior improvements and the entire fit out of the building. So no beach and rec offices, that's all out. No, and I'm not saying that's what you don't have, but I'm saying the fit out of the interior of the building is what costs $2 million.
So you would have blank walls.
The existing walls would be there, they would be clean, but they wouldn't be painted. There would be no ceilings. You gotta
But they would be
no
sheetrock
ceiling.
and like,
Yeah, the plaster, existing plaster walls would still be in place. The flooring, all the existing flooring would be cleaned up. It would be just left there for now. Either you do new flooring in the future as a part of the project. That's what the $500,000 is. So the building would be rough.
So just going, I'm continuing with my train of thought. So if we did do interior walls and partitions, and maybe we say X amount of dollars for that, we'd want to also include X amount of dollars for doors and frames, because if you're just putting up, right? I'm just saying.
Framed opening, but no
No.
door frame and no door.
Exactly.
Right.
So I have a question. So are we looking at the 12 point, whatever it is, $1 million construction cost to be able to actually open the building and use it? Is that our test, Joe?
Yes.
yeah.
So we can't use this and open the building.
That's how I'm.
The only
So,
thing.
just one last thing,
Yeah.
I'll stop, but, so from this, does it make sense to look at the square footage of the building and reduce our demolition scope and our reconstruction of square footage in the building to offset the $2 million so we can actually complete the building?
Possibly.
So as an example.
All right, so an example might be, let's not do the elevator, let's not do the entrance and the demo. Let's just leave the building as it is. We'll do all the MEP, we have to do the MEP, but the building won't be accessible.
Yeah, we can't use it on an elevator though. No, what about, Mike, I think where I was going was, if we just take the square footage from the lower level and we exclude it. What is that number?
I think that's when you run into the CO problem. How
Well,
could you get us?
The fit out, the lower level work is about a third of this 1.8 in simple terms.
Okay.
So if you exclude the lowest level, all right, we still have a gap of 1.3.
So you're saying all of the abatement, all of the reconstruction of the lower level is only $300,000?
Oh, you're saying if we take the abatement work and the MEP and the
I'm just-
electrical and
I'm
let's
just saying-
not do any of that work on the lower level. I guess what we're saying is, I don't know if that makes sense or financial sense. For instance, you can't exclude, all right, in simple
Well,
terms,
the
you
MEP,
can't
but-
exclude a portion of the roof. You have to do the whole
Correct.
roof. You can't exclude a portion of the windows. You gotta do all the windows and clean up the masonry, right there. Now, could you, in theory, not do the electrical upgrades on the basement floor and the third floor? It's possible. I don't know if that makes sense. It would cost significantly more to do it in the future, but it's physically possible to do that. Could you probably wouldn't do that for the HVAC systems because you'd want to condition the whole building. You wouldn't want to do that for the plumbing systems because you have to upgrade the plumbing and the mechanical system. So yes, the answer is it's possible that some of these things some of these core things could not be done. You could, if you're not occupying the third floor and the lower level, you could try and close off those areas and then not do the abatement in those areas of the building. Possibly.
I was only talking about the lower level, not the upper level.
Sure,
I
yeah.
think we're going down,
But it's
we may be going
incremental.
down the wrong
What?
path there.
It's very incremental.
Yeah, we may be going down, slightly down the wrong path. This is not, let's figure out how to cut the wires and not, and be able to go into the building. I think it's, our task is, what do we get? We get, and identify it, and not, I think it's pretty straightforward.
What do we get?
We get this, we get column A. You get column B or not? I can't even.
No.
No.
No, that's what we're
You get
talking
about
about.
$400,000
So-
out of that cost.
Okay,
Maybe-
so
maybe we could
going
raise
to that point, let's kind of keep going with this. The interior walls and partition, the gypsum wallboard, is that assuming every single room is going to have that? Okay, so what if we say only youth and family services and beach and rec, because those are new walls, right? That are gonna be put in that are dividing current space. What if we cut that number and all the other community buildings stay with the plaster?
You know,
I'm just-
again, this is futile. There is no way that as the chairman of this committee, I'm gonna recommend that we're gonna open a building that has, that is finished with like one room finished. And then the town offices being the only room, and you can't even do that. You can't even get the town offices finished. And how could we possibly make a recommendation that that's what we're going to do with $15.9 million of the town's money?
Well,
But there's no buts about this. This.
okay,
we
so
have-
we go
we
back
have-
to Board of
we-
Selectmen and say there's no way you can do
Well,
it for
what's- so I guess-
15.9.
what's-
So then the
The question
community's
is,
gonna say,
what do we get for that 59? And it sounds like we get a building that we really can't use.
Right.
right,
That's the bottom line.
Yes.
right.
In
So,
this-
That's-
The building is now ready for completion.
Yeah, you need some sheetrock, you need some paint, you need some other work on the red, on the left, on the right-hand side. You're close to it, but you get a somewhat new building.
In fairness, this was John and mostly John. I'm not responsible for this. This was our
He's not
first
sure which way it's
step.
gonna go yet.
But Dave makes a good point, right? So let's say for 15.9, we're now gonna have the alternate entrance. We really don't want that, but
Yeah.
that's
This
what
is
you would
another
get.
Yes.
So then you can add $500,000 to the budget that you have available to buy some of these things. So maybe then you can do the fit out doors and frames, partitions, and, you know, ceilings, maybe then now you can buy that stuff. You know, I don't know, and we need painted spaces, but we're not painting the whole building. Maybe we're painting just the first and second floor. Maybe
By the way, you need the toilets.
we're gonna refinish the existing. I know
But
we need.
if you don't put the toilets in, you don't need the septic.
No, it's only
I
the
get it,
partitions,
but-
you're getting
Yeah, the
toilets.
toilets just don't work.
They're not partitions.
Yeah, you need to take the parking lot.
No, there's no toilet partitions, you just see them.
Yeah, yeah, it's old school.
They're not working on it,
Okay.
nobody's gonna
So I'm gonna go back to maybe we prioritize then the floors as far as full finishes. Because you're still in the baseline.
The floors have to be finished because they got asphalt on it. They've got
Yeah,
asbestos.
but then
tile.
all the walls are, we're gonna be peeling all the paint off of them.
Right.
And it's, we can't.
I mean, some of those things to the right are actually should be on the left.
Well,
The simple,
we have
simple
to-
way.
Right, other than dollars.
we have to figure out how to pay, we have to.
I don't know, I
Right, so we just need
I
to
appreciate
say,
it.
if we're gonna stick
I'm not
by the
criticizing.
15.9 budget, this is what you will get. That's the charge of what we're doing here tonight.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is as reverse engineer as possible, the closest thing to get an occupancy. I mean, you need to get to occupancy. Right? John?
John, have a hand up?
What I was gonna suggest is, rather than try to backwards engineer how we get to the 12.1, we've got 15.9 to work with. What does it cost us to get a building that can be occupied? Because you can't occupy with bare electrical showing, you can't occupy without paint on the walls. So what does it cost to get us a building that can be occupied just as a minimal baseline? Does that mean all the stuff at the right has to go to the left?
Yes, but we may, if we're gonna stick to that.
So if that's the case, you're at,
Stuff on the left, like not do the entrance and
Right.
some of that pretty
if
stuff.
that's the case, we're at 13.5. So what is the balance to be used for?
13.5 and we need to get down to 12,185.
How are we doing with the other stuff in our budget between the 12.1 and the 15.9?
So
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Are we on target with
I-
those?
So I'd like to make a suggestion here to get, I mean, I know it's weird, but I would propose that we suggest to the Board of Selectmen that the septic system, because it's gonna be shared by more than one building, be a town project rather than be put into the academy budget. That gives us another $250,000. And we're closing in then if we use the alternate piece. I'm just saying,
Makes
that
sense.
because, you know, that to me makes sense.
So if you-
As part of the condition, yes, we're at 15.9, it's gonna be a very basic building, it's gonna not look like we all want it, I mean, but this is what you're gonna get. And that's what the public needs to understand. I mean, I'm saying we need to give them that understanding.
Yeah, I don't think you can get, like, if you divide that work up into 3 floors, and say each floor is roughly $600,000.
Mhm.
You add the 500, you add the septic back in, you add the, something else we added.
And I don't think,
Subtract out,
oh, the frontage, yeah, the 500.
yeah. You have to subtract 2 floors to roughly get to even. So you can basically finish the main floor.
No,
I mean, you can just come up with a square footage price and figure out the square footage and add and delete as necessary, right?
Yeah,
I mean, get you rough, right?
rough.
Rough.
That's what I'm saying, you know, the third floor, I don't know, 20,000, next one's the
You do have
15.
the sprinkler,
keep
you
in
have
mind-
lighting.
I mean, some of it's not equal.
I mean, out of the things that we could take from the left side, to me, the only thing is maybe the new sanitary system, correct? That we could try to move over, because that was discussed as something that might be community between all the buildings down.
Right.
So,
I'm still trying to figure, it depends on the approach that we try to
Yeah.
say, this is what you get for 15, or we trying to say, this is what the very basic building's gonna cost.
And that's kind of what I'm stuck on.
Like, what are we trying to communicate?
what are we getting for 15.9 that will allow occupancy?
Not that.
No, I don't think you can, we determined you're not getting occupancy for 15 million.
I mean, you're getting occupancy, but
You're not occupying, you're not occupying all
Space there.
43,000 square feet.
But that's why I'm saying if we kind of go back and say, we pick and choose which areas get finished off initially that require, like Youth and Family Services requires those offices in order to do their work.
If they go in the building.
They are going, that's part of the
So-
grants that
so
is,
the community
it's a
center.
requirement of the grant that we've already received.
I think-
Correct? One of the grants we've already received, is
I
they have to
think,
be in the
I
building.
think we've come to an answer already. And we keep walking around it. The building is not habitable at 15. And even if we were to stretch, and so, Betty? If we even were to stretch and take the sewer as a partial and paint it only a little, we would get Beach and Rec and Madison Family Services in. So we're gonna open a 15.9 million office building, which that is unacceptable.
But
That is just unacceptable.
But it's, no, but that's the point is, we're trying to make the point that for 15.9, we're not gonna get there. So but we have to give them, this is what you get for 15.9.
You get the.
So you get the,
You get a little bit of painting, you may
Public has to know.
get.
the public has to know
Get
that.
the Beach and Rec office and the Madison Youth and Family Services, and you essentially get no program.
But not
That's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, I suggest there's a fourth number this committee may want to
Okay.
produce.
We're struggling with 3.
We're struggling with 1.
This was gonna be the easy
Even
one.
come one number.
It's a number that yields occupancy in your parlance here. In other words, the 15.9 may not allow us to have a building that can be occupied. Maybe there's a fourth number that tells us what's the minimum to get some degree of occupancy in the building.
I think that is.
Well, I think this whole thing.
I think
The
this
problem with that is
13.7.
it becomes an office building. We can get minimum occupancy, we won't get any programming. We get Beach and Rec in, that's nice, but there'll be nobody coming in except the Madison Youth and Family Services people.
Well, there'll still be a
What is
room
the
to
number
do
that
art,
put it in?
there's
That's
still
the
gonna
message.
be rooms to do, community space, there's
Yep.
still meeting spaces, because there's.
So there won't be any
classrooms.
chairs. You took out FFE.
Yeah, no, I agree, Joe, I agree with you, but I think maybe that's the message is like, listen, you're getting a $15 million office building, you're not getting a community center.
Right.
Do you want to communicate that?
And by the way,
Yeah,
you're not
that's
getting
what we have to
desks.
do,
They're-
we
they're-
have to, this
there
is
are-
part of it.
You're not gonna get the desks, so you gotta put the money in
You're
for the
gonna get
desks.
new offices.
That's okay, the public has to.
The public has to hear that, that's the kind of the point of this, is to say, this is what you get for 15.9, which none of us are gonna wanna endorse and have our names on that, so we're gonna be pushing like heck to have that increase of the budget, but if we don't have the answer to, well, what does 15.9 get us, then we're gonna have no basic, no one's gonna trust what we're saying to them. So we need to really do the exercise of, here's 15.9, we're gonna have the alternate entrance, we're gonna take 410K that was left over, and we're gonna ask that the sewerage gets over here, so we're at about $1.1 million or so. So out of the right side of scope, what do we wanna do for $1.1 million? The red side of scope, what should be in for $1.1 million, and then we say, that's it, it's very basic. You're not gonna get new floors, you're not gonna get this, you're not gonna get that. And let that be heard, it has to be heard.
Okay, so what do we get for $1.1 million?
What's the 1 million?
So I'm saying the 410 that we started with as the base here, I'm adding 500,000 in
That
from
would be 550.
550, okay, 550 for the alternate entrance, which we all agree, nah, right? We don't wanna do.
Actually, it's 544.
Not that it's not a lovely design for what it is, but we all want the original design.
It's 544.2. We both.
544.2, and then 253,000 for the new sanitary system, because we're saying that that's probably gonna be a shared system, and that should be a town expense, not this project expense, considering the original budget said that it was gonna, it was $50,000. So I think we can look at that and say, all right, in my rough numbers, that's about 1.2 million, right?
You
Did I-
added back $500,000 for the entrance or?
Yeah,
Take it out?
We're adding for our use, $500,000 for the alternate entrance with the stairs and the ramp.
Oh, so we're saying we'll go with
The
the
option
option two,
Option
less
two,
desired entrance.
the less desired entrance,
Okay.
right? So if I do 4-1.
Do we have enough
plus-
parking plate? Do we have enough
So
parking
let's-
spots
We,
currently?
We will at a million, the building that only,
okay,
that's 1,590,000.
so correct me if I'm right, so it's 410 plus the 5,
Because then those two
what
can
is it,
come out.
40?
544.2.
544, and then 253, we've got $1.2 million on the red side that we should pull from.
Hey,
1.
Joan, I completely agree with the approach, but I think when you look at the flooring that's in there, you're stripping asbestos tile off concrete, maybe, particle board, maybe. I don't know that we have the option of not putting flooring in.
Well, that's what, we're at 1.2 million, so now we say, okay, what's the listing on the 1.2 million that we want to use?
Okay.
Well, I can give you a little more information that might help.
Right.
So the majority of the interior wall partitions are in the 2 offices.
Okay.
So maybe just rough numbers, maybe you could take 285, you could take 10% of the wall partitions out of the building, but you would have to carry $285,000 for interior wall partitions. Woods and plastics are, millwork and, trim and finishes. I don't know if you actually need that, but doors and frames,
You do.
the majority of that you would need to take on. Ceilings you don't really need to have, but if there are issues associated with the HIPAA regulations with youth and family services. I may be speaking incorrectly with that exact regulation, but the majority of the ceilings, or a good portion of them, are in the offices.
I'm just
So-
showing people, there's a public hearing gonna go on.
So say 2/3 of that is in the offices, or 180. Flooring is an interesting subject. You don't have to have finished flooring to work to occupy the building. As long as there's no trip hazards, the floors can look awful and you can still occupy the building. So you may want to take a portion of that and allocate it for certain areas.
Well, I'm assuming a big portion of that is for the gym.
You're correct. A portion of that flooring is in the gymnasium.
So there's no gym.
Well,
There's-
no, but you
One second.
need to leave that in.
City took.
So go ahead.
Legal.
Austin.
So just
That's,
as a member of the
that's
public,
1.2
just trying
million right there.
to listen to what you're saying, I think when you get to this number, you're not recommending
This number.
that. And I think that may be where you're getting held up on. This isn't something you're recommending. This is just the reality.
Right, yes.
And that I think is where you have to get to. This is what we could do. We're not recommending it, but this is what you're gonna get.
Right.
Does that make
Yes,
sense?
yes.
That's correct.
So.
So you don't need to be nervous of.
Right.
You're not telling them this is what you're
Right.
getting. You're saying this is what you will get if we stick to this number. We're not saying this is what we're gonna do, but this is what.
Right.
They did.
But if the
In
referendum
order to
does
satisfy
fail,
that objective
Correct.
request
Yeah.
from the
Right.
select.
right, because if the referendum does go down and the number doesn't change, then all of these other projects will have to go into CIP and be worked on within years. So it may be that we open without a gym initially, but that gets part of the CIP that then gets added in.
Can we just, I need a.
Let me just get to
I
the
need a
last
halt for
few
just a
things.
second.
Yeah.
Jeannie, are we gonna be? what is
She's
Jeannie?
Oh,
she's
she's
on.
at the public hearing.
Okay, are we gonna be cut off in 10 minutes?
No,
No, I don't think so. No, they have another,
They have 2 Zoom accounts there.
they have more than one. so.
Okay, there was a warning that came in the back of the screen. We got 10 minutes left.
That's just probably because it's set for.
Okay,
An
so
hour
we
and a half.
may need to get Jean to come in to extend the actual number.
I don't think it'll shut off. It's just
Okay.
It's like teams, it
So,
gives you a warning.
If we're talking the flooring, because we don't have basketball hoops in the basketball court, right? Would
We
you
actually
have-
do now, currently.
Oh, okay, but,
Well, being basketball.
right, but my point being is, so approximately how much of that flooring is the gym versus the rest of the building?
I don't know, I'd have to.
Well, it's
do a
off of
little
square
work.
footage, right? What's the square footage? of
It's
the
a-
gym? It's pretty
I
big.
don't
I'm not, no, I'm not quizzing you, I'm just saying it's a large, it probably is a large
It's
portion
a
of the
big
flooring.
number, it might be 80,000 or 100,000.
Okay. So
The
say
gym.
we bring the flooring down to 430.
Close the door, please.
Um,
I just want, because without paint,
but remember, that's all the flooring in the entire building. A lot of the classrooms have wood floors that could stand as they are.
Yes, correct.
So, maybe you take a wood floor allowance and you take a couple $100,000 and you spend it how you can. Painting the whole building, you might not have to paint the whole building because you gotta paint the offices, but maybe 2/3 of the building. It's 125,000. The specialties, you kind of need the toilet partitions, but maybe you have half of those. Window treatments you don't need. Radio repeater system, maybe that's something you can get public safety to purchase. It's only 35,000. But the parking lot and exterior improvements do not need to be done for occupancy. This does not need to be done.
What's
for
the thing? So the
occupancy.
367 comes right off.
right, so if we say 285, we skip the trims. Doors and frames, you're not gonna get too much lower than what they've got. Ceilings, we went to 180. Flooring, dropping down to 332, I have. You still, painting,
125.
125. And you gotta get the specialties in, so.
I mean,
So I just wanna see what that comes to.
Yeah, where's that?
I don't think you got a million.
yeah,
No, we're
Close.
we're we're a little over, we're at 1.268.
There's no desks and chairs.
Right,
No, that's in chairs.
No,
I
we're
think
saying-
we can.
that's okay, I mean, this is
Well,
what
the
we're saying.
FF&E is, excuse me, FF&E is part of the soft cost, so technically that is a separate line item.
Oh, okay.
Where is that?
That's not in the.
Oh, that's a
not-
separate,
That's part of the soft cost.
Okay.
Remember, your number is the 12,180,000,
right,
not the 15,900. The 15,900 is including the FF&E and the soft cost.
so we have a partial.
so where's the
finished
FF&E
Well,
cost?
So why would we
That's
take
not,
that?
that's not on that.
How much was FF&E?
It's actually on that other document.
700,000.
He's got it in a separate section.
I got a question though. If you go to
So
your
maybe
mark,
we take a little bit from the FF&E.
but what about these markup costs? So your design and pricing contingency, that's a percentage, right? I don't know what that means.
Yes, it's 5%. At the
So-
PD phase, it's 5%.
But what if we said it was 3?
But we needed a 12-1, but.
I can say that, but.
But no, but I'm saying is for saying that you're trying to get at this 12,180,
Mhm.
right? We could chip away at some of that unless that's a fixed percentage.
It's typically a fixed percentage because at the SD phase, it's 10%.
I don't-
Design contingency.
Okay,
I don't think we need to belabor this.
No, but I'm saying if we're within 200 grand, we just chop one of those by a
Yeah,
couple
we're not
percent.
even
and we're
within,
there.
we're within.
But it doesn't change the point. The point is we have a partially finished building for the budget.
Right, well, no,
That's-
it's.
We could 200,000 here or there, a finished floor, a painted wall, it doesn't matter.
You're correct.
What?
If you get it to within a couple $100,000 and this, we'll figure out.
That's what I'm
we'll find
saying. So
out.
saying, you weren't here, but I'm saying you just reduce one percentage on the
So
left,
maybe-
maybe the
maybe the
contingency or
furniture-
whatever.
There's still a lot of contingency
moved
baked into
and-
there.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
okay, so can we say, once again, paving in the parking lot, all that's gone. What I've got for interior wall partition is 285. No woods and plastics, doors and frames is 286. Ceilings, we put down to 180, flooring 332. Painting, we went to 125. I kept the partitions because you can't have the toilets without the partitions unless we're really gonna push the envelope there. So that's 60, and then the window treatments and the radio is out. That gets us to 1.276. So we're right at, we're right where we need to be.
We want eventually for the taxpayers to vote in favor of an increase for referendum. The taxpayers have to know just how inadequate
This is.
the 15.9
And is,
will be.
and
They
that's.
have to see that reality. That this is a half-baked, this is a
Right.
half-baked community center.
Right, so this is what you're, this
They
is
have
what
to
you're
see
getting,
that.
you're getting.
But again, that's not what you're getting. What you're, if you want to describe it to the public, you can't say, well, we're gonna spend $200,000 on painting. I mean, that's meaningless. What you have to say is, we're gonna build out the offices. Madison Youth and Family Services has to be there because of the grant. We're gonna build out, we're gonna sacrifice the entrance. That's the kind of descriptive that you're gonna have to bring to the public to make it understandable.
I think,
And
Yeah, and we all agree with that.
yes,
But-
how does that translate into $200,000 worth of painting?
Well, because if they vote this down, this project still goes forward and everything else gets dumped into CIP over the next 5 to 10 years. So this has got to be something at 15.9 can be basically occupied, which is why we went through the exercise.
There needs to be a good narrative to explain what you're getting for that 15.9, so they
Right.
can say, okay, that's not what we want. But then part B of that is, okay, to get what you want, here's that real number.
Right.
So now you can either vote it down and say, we don't want a community center,
No, no,
or vote
the
it and say,
community
we
center-
want the basics, or say, yeah, we're gonna vote it
No, no,
to
no.
increase the
So
budget.
I need to explain, the community center is moving forward, that's already been voted on, we're not relitigating that. It's not gonna happen. What you're gonna get is, this is what is going to happen for 15.9. We will be able to open this with very basic look and the rest of the projects that accumulate that 2, 3, 4 million will be in CIP and will happen over 4 or 5 years.
You could also get pushback and say, we don't want any of it, so.
But that's not, it doesn't matter, it's already been approved, you can't reverse out a referendum. It doesn't work that way.
You could
No, you
vote it
can't.
out.
No, you can't. You cannot, no, because the question is going to be in this referendum, will you go, can we expend this much more money? And if it goes down, then we're back to the original
Well,
referendum.
I think the referendum should also include a line that
You
says.
can't, you cannot relitigate. Because we already have the bonds. We've already gone out. We've already got, legally, we can go into an executive
It would
committee.
be highly, it would be very irresponsible to build a $15 million building you can't use. And it,
It is going to be able to be used. It's just gonna get phased in with the rest of the CIP, like the high school. We don't have a gym that we can, the varsity team can't play. We didn't have any kind of theater. We
that's
added
where we're
stuff.
heading again. And
Huh?
I'm just saying, I think that the public's not gonna appreciate that.
Well, but that's why I think they'll come out and support the change, because we're bonding less, but extending
can I
more.
ask a question, Joe?
Sure,
We're supposed to put these 3 or 4 things together, right?
yes.
And then we are gonna recommend which one,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
So we already know we're not recommending this option 1,
No.
right,
right? So we get it on paper,
right,
right? And we move on to option 2.
right.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Right.
We did our
Right.
due diligence, we have 15.9.
Get that.
We're not recommending this.
And we
Move on to the
need,
next one.
and we need a narrative that explains,
Well, John's
What
on
you
that.
get?
He said he's willing to write it.
oh, I didn't hear
I offered him up.
They volunteer.
Yeah, you're right, that's,
But
get that on
that's
paper.
the thing.
But we did it, right? We did it.
Right, but we have to go through the exercise, because if this goes down, this still goes forward.
I know, but
There's no other
but we
choice.
may not do this exact
Right, it-
15.9. We
it's-
did
it's-
we did our due diligence.
There
Right.
are outs. I wonder if it
Right?
does go any further. There are outs.
This isn't that, it's over there.
Joe, there
It's
were
over there.
outs. I don't know if you heard the public comments at the end of the meeting.
I understand that, but it's,
There were public people speaking against the project based upon the budget.
I understand that, I understand
Yeah,
that.
I-
And these
I-
are the same
I-
people that did not want it to begin with.
I
So
don't know.
there's- I do, 'cause I know who the people are, and they've been saying that they haven't, like,
There's
Hey,
outs if the public wants outs.
Yeah,
And I think there needs to be that option.
I think having kids in the school system and talking to parents, and AJ probably more than me, it's gotta be what they thought they were getting.
It can't be the high school where you can't have a.
It has to be. And
Or,
Right.
or if you're not going to be able to do it, because you don't want to spend more money, or you're not gonna get it, then don't do it at all.
Because that's a few of the comments that I've
But
heard
it's
recently.
already been
why-
approved, okay.
Yeah, but anyway,
We
that's-
can go-
that's-
we can
Yeah,
go-
that's not.
Right, what's option
I'm not
two?
gonna, I'm not gonna beat that dead horse.
We got, no,
I'm only here for
And-
another 20 minutes.
And the only,
It's
the
been
only,
sitting dead for 20 years.
the only add that we did to what we just did is we need a narrative that explains it. In terms of, this is what you get,
I'll,
as a description,
So
not
do we-
as, you don't get painting, you get the offices, or you get,
no,
you
we
get a
we
couple.
have some painting, we have
We're-
some
we're
flooring,
taking-
we
yeah,
have,
We're taking care of the family services and the beach and rec and.
and the rest,
Yeah,
and,
and what places.
but also we're doing some of the flooring where it's needed and some of the ceiling, I mean, there are some pieces, so we just have to.
it's not gonna be nice now.
What?
It's not, no, it's not gonna be nice now, because it's gonna be, you're gonna open this building and it's not gonna look that great, guys. It's gonna be you're gonna be able to occupy it, you're not gonna have a lot of stuff in, I mean, the furniture, we may be able to draw some from the soft.
At the end of the day, we're not gonna want our names and they're not gonna want their companies on that building if we can't really occupy it, right?
Right. And we're not, we don't want to.
It's a reflection of everyone's effort.
We don't want to do all
Get
this
something
either.
that's-
We're all in
Not gonna
agreement,
see
we
it.
don't want the $15.9 million option.
Yes,
Right,
that's
so that's the
unanimous
point
agreement
is
on
that-
that.
But it's
Committee's part.
necessary
To
in
paint
order
the picture.
support
Yeah.
what we do.
Right.
I thought your friend was gonna become artist and paint the whole walls for us.
I had a conversation, he's booked and he's costly, so
Okay,
it's gonna be
Okay,
fairly,
So
The next step is.
next step is,
because it's,
what-
it's not
what is
a
a,
volunteer effort. Sorry.
what's the next step?
We moved on to number 2.
Yes,
My notes
Want
said
me to give you? the
best
numbers?
recommendation for, hold on, for approximate.
No, I
So I
think-
think step 2 now has to be, now that we have this squared away, what does it now cost to build the building exactly as the referendum originally did?
Mhm.
So we know what the delta is.
Okay.
Between this beautiful thing we just talked about and the pie in the sky building.
Right, and then we're gonna say, this is what we're
Here's
actually.
where we're short.
Right.
So I think we can do that one pretty painlessly. We have most of the scope estimated from the original estimate. What we'll do is we'll add back in things like allocation for the stage renovation. We'll add back in the skylight.
Yeah.
We're not gonna add back in the things that were removed by the committee that didn't make sense, like, you know, windows on the academy side of the building, things that didn't affect the functionality, the mush that was cut out of the design.
Right.
But that'll put the project, you know, above 18A, it'll be.
where would
Leave what
we,
it is.
where would we put the geothermal would be in that number then also?
Right.
I think the geothermal would have to be in that number.
It was in the referendum.
It's right in the referendum.
Yep.
Okay, so we get that number and then we say, that's the big thing, what we're recommending is this middle ground.
What do you all want?
Which includes a lot of what is there, but
And then you can just-
Now,
I'm wondering if we.
what I did hear from the board of selectmen too, from Bruce, was that if the town aligns to using that grant money, I want it all. I want everything that could be in that building,
Yeah.
And he'll get it.
in that
If we get
budget,
it.
And I think we
right?
can get it.
But
I
then
mean,
we're not,
we're
then
at
they're,
4 million, right?
we're not going for the middle ground, we're going for additional.
No, yeah, I think what we're saying is,
20,
well, it'll have to, it depends on how the referendum is
We
written.
get everything we want.
If they say vote on A, B, and C, vote on something in the
My-
middle, vote
not
on pie in the
including
sky.
But to me,
We- that's what
I
happens.
still think, you know, the geothermal could be pulled out of that,
Right.
right?
I
So
would include it just because it,
you want to include it to show it, but to me, we would, I mean, after the discussion we've had and the talks from the engineers, and
In
it's,
column number 3,
right,
column 3, it has to be included in column 2,
Right.
because that's the referendum language. But in column 3, if it makes sense not to do it, this is just my opinion,
Right.
it's a professional opinion, if the engineering team is telling you that the air source VRF system is a better approach and it saves the community $1 million in this solution, then maybe this committee you know, because you've already voted it out of the project.
Right.
You know, it's out of there, and the idea and what Al was saying was to show, right, what the referendum would be and what the responsible final solution that
Yes.
the committee put together.
Right.
And you made a responsible decision. We don't think there's good value in the geothermal for this project, so you're pulling that out, but you know, you may think we should have the skylight back in,
Right.
or, you know, whatever that is, right?
Right,
Or
right.
the exterior, what was the facade upgrades. That would be in the total, the master
Column
budget.
two,
Column
but not in column.
Not, but maybe not in column 3.
Oh, the Academy
The
side.
Academy Street.
I would put that in column 2, and I think we
Yeah.
could justify saying that it's,
It does probably make sense having a column.
Tom, could you?
Yeah.
Rather than our going through this painfully, is that something you could put together?
No, John's gonna put it together
John's gonna-
with my help.
Way to go, John.
He's the numbers guy.
see it
before we get
Yeah, actually, his spreadsheet is so big at this point, I don't know if I could actually work it.
John, you gotta take those links out. Because every time I try to make a change to do it,
He does that for a reason, so nobody can mess with
do
it.
a save as first, and put it in your own, and then you can kill the functions.
that's what it is.
Oh,
Yeah, I just.
Are you
copy-
saying,
copy
Joan,
paste.
you know how to fudge all the numbers?
No, I'm saying I know how to work a spreadsheet.
Precisely.
To be able to change and look at what that change means and then put things back.
Yes.
And I think you have to also add in this exercise, you have to add the stage as an add alternate. Because that wasn't, as far as we know, that wasn't in the original design.
I'm gonna ask
That's.
next stage for the auditorium stage. I'm gonna ask next stage or consultant that we use for budget allocation.
Yeah, just a ballpark at this point. Yeah, but understanding the electrical and all that stuff needs to be part of that. Because if we don't get the stage, then we don't need the bleachers that go halfway through, you know, the fold up bleachers,
I don't know.
the wall of bleachers. 'Cause
That's-
then-
Yeah, but unless they have like high school graduation. or something.
What level of theatrical support do we want to include?
Well, I think you have to have a stage, the lighting,
Lighting
sound.
sound.
sound, yeah, lighting, sound stage.
And access.
What was that?
What about what kind of rigging?
Well, I think you have,
Why don't we let
Yeah. come back with,
Well, I mean, they can do this.
Something right in the
right,
middle.
I mean, it's,
I'm not suggesting that we.
Normal.
because I'm not
Broadway
afraid.
Normal
touring
community
shows.
center.
I'm not
So-
saying.
We're gonna need, we're gonna need support the roof to carry the.
We don't need what we can sign.
Carrying all of the
Yeah.
lighting.
The other thing that you're going to have to add is, if we're looking at the full cost, we have to look at replacing or relocating the play yard. Because we are going, if the septic system goes in, it rips up the play yard.
For some
But
of
if it's-
the alternates that are required, I think we're in this column here, the one that's gone, so.
Just gonna make sure.
We've
we're
done
all-
that exercise, I think now we're gonna add to it
Mhm.
some of the things that you want responsible.
And I think the $1 million play landscaping, I don't think that fits anywhere at any level.
Question.
If that's an alternate.
If
Yeah,
the playground
I
has to
think
be
you-
How-
because of the septic system, and we've taken the septic system
Oh,
possibly out of this
okay.
scope. Will the playground also not be part of this scope?
Well, we were told, when we had the discussions about the septic system, we were told that it's an academy problem, so academy pays for it, basically. That was the
Even though-
outcome of the meeting that we had and.
Even though we were also told that our purview was nothing outside the walls of the building.
Yeah.
Right, but I think the septic system is being
That-
talked about a little
that's-
differently now, so.
But I think
Because,
once we
because
paint
it's
this,
gonna become a.
once we paint the whole
communal one
picture,
with
that
other
conversation is gonna be had again.
Yes.
So we're gonna paint the
One-
15
And there
million
are some things that are.
referendum and then slightly alternated,
To what we,
the
yeah,
conversations will be had again.
right, right.
And
There
then
are
the
some
selectmen
things
can
that-
form up a referendum.
But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build that well, whatever
gonna-
column it
they're-
is.
Well, we've got,
The
Yeah,
all
probably
inclusive
makes
column.
Oh, that's two.
well, we've got, no.
John, sorry.
Well, referendum
Yeah.
is
Hi.
one, but we have to have a number that we want to go, we want to actually spend.
Right, which is not column one or column.
So maybe column three is what we would actually recommend.
Right,
Yes.
and to some extent, we've done that, I think we need to pick another one. So I've got a,
And just paint it a little bit different.
yeah, and I'd like to
Oh,
recognize.
that's
John.
the teams.
He's got his hand raised.
Very patient.
Yeah, go ahead.
John,
I'm
you're
sorry, John.
very patient.
Yeah, I just was trying to get a clarification whether or not the septic system absolutely had to go underneath where the playground is, or is that just the best drainage place? Because if it can go underneath the ball field, you now eliminate the need to rip up the playground, to rip up the ball field. I mean,
But the answer to
So-
that question is yes and yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the soils under the rest of the ball fields were garbage in simple terms. They won't accept they don't perk right. So the only good soils for the leaching fields were under the playground and along the roadway there.
By the church or along the property.
Yeah, by the
By the
church.
parking lot. Yeah, okay.
So,
Good.
yeah, it has to be there.
so that by definition leads to that by definition leads to mandatory relocation of the playground, and probably if you have to recover up where the playground was, probably also then includes the extra paving work. So that's a big extra bill.
Yeah, and so I think coming out of last night's meeting, what we want to note is, so in that column two, that needs to be footnoted that these were unrecognized or unplanned costs
Right.
when the referendum went out.
Yeah.
We thought we could reuse the septic. We didn't know we were gonna have to move the playscape. We didn't expect so much pavement.
But I think, well, Austin stepped up, I think Beach and Rec has a budget to replace the equipment that's there. They
But they-
chose not to replace it yet, not knowing what we were doing. They just put it some more of the.
But that was under ARPA funds, so those.
Yeah,
are
but you
no
know what?
longer-
I think it just makes sense to
available.
paint
Yeah, but I
this
thought that
picture
they
and then
already
let the
have
town
it.
figure
It
all
was,
that out.
but it was under ARPA funds, and ARPA funds have to be used by a certain
So
point in
why don't
time.
they just buy the equipment?
It's not, it's not it's a project base, you can't, it's.
I think I think if we, listening to
it's-
Joe, if we put it in this mix, it'll force the hand of whoever's gonna make the decision to make the decision,
One way or the other.
one way or the other.
Right.
We're charged,
We're not in charge of that.
we're figuring out what it costs. They're
Right.
gonna have to figure out how to fund it.
Right, exactly.
Or to
So
do
let
it or
them
not to
figure
do
that
it.
out.
You know, they could relocate it to, to the surf club or to Ryerson or
Well,
something.
they already have them there.
This is
To
the,
Joan's point, they were replacing them one by one.
Yeah.
They were gonna replace the one at Academy and they chose not to, not knowing what we were. gonna do.
right.
It sounds
And
like that.
And that was under the
ship
ARPA
has sailed.
funds, but on top of it, because the ARPA funds were used for something else and it was approved in CIP, there's probably some funds that can be drawn to be able to cover.
Right, and
But that's all, like, that's
Yeah.
where you get the director of finance going, okay, this is.
We're not worried about that.
we're putting in the septic system, the septic system is gonna go where the playground is, it's.
Well, the septic system is out in the, it's basically, its route though is going through the playground.
Right, okay,
The leaching fields are further to the north.
so do you still feel comfortable, last night you said about 4 weeks to be able to get? Do you still feel
I think
comfortable?
4 weeks is reasonable to get a budget number that's viable, that puts us in the ballpark of being able to complete the project. It doesn't mean that in the end of the CD phase, we won't be going through an exercise of VE
narrow.
and fine tuning it,
Mhm.
but I think you'll be in the ballpark, you'll be trying to find a viable amount of money as opposed to, deal breaking money.
Right, right, okay.
So
But don't you already have most of those costs now?
we have a lot of the costs.
Yeah,
That's
this,
what I
this
was
there's
is
saying.
only
the
a few-
stage and the,
But this is the few ancillary
Yeah.
items
Correct.
that we got. That's 4 weeks?
I
It's only
just
quicker.
told the committee 4 weeks that we're like,
That was
They
good.
wanted a number. I was like, oh, 4 weeks.
Oh, no, I just thought we could do better.
I mean, maybe we
Just
can
start
do
with
it
5.
better in 4 weeks, but.
But he's not even doing it.
John, you gotta do better.
Under promise, over deliver.
So I
He needs another pat on the back.
Okay.
I was gonna schedule,
But the
I want to
committee-
schedule a special meeting, like a week from now, to
I
to go over
think
this.
Well, I think the best thing to do would be to put a draft of this together and then maybe circulate it and then discuss it behind the scenes and then have a meeting.
Okay,
Once it's kind of
because,
been-
yeah, we could call a special meeting at very little.
We want to vet this
So,
before
but
we.
we've got March 11th is the next meeting, if we can get as much done in 2 weeks, so that we could look at that on the March 11th.
I think that's realistic.
Okay. And then we've got the,
I think John can get that done.
Well, I think in all the different iterations we've seen, he probably has it all one place. You just gotta pick one piece from here, one from there, one from there.
Super spreadsheet, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? You're just gonna cut and paste columns.
and I'll be zooming in on the
Performance that don't
26th
work.
from you.
That sounds very nice.
I'm gonna be on a beach on the 26th zooming in.
Yeah,
If you wanna be there.
I think I'm signing you up for hourly fees, by the way. I think you get paid hourly.
That's in the scope.
Running out
Oh,
of.
is it in
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
scope? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
It's lump sum.
Okay,
I'll let Mark go.
Okay,
we feel, I know it got a little crazy in the middle there, but I think
Doing good.
we've come to some sort of way to go forward.
and I think what I heard was, John, you were going to write up a description of what we said. Is that true? You volunteered?
No, Joan was gonna take care
There's
of it.
not out.
I'll do the,
Oh, no,
I'll do
John.
the write-up of that, John.
Oh, I thought it was.
No, he was looking at John,
Oh, good.
the other
Yeah,
John.
I'll do the 15.9, what we think would be included in this from this spreadsheet.
But
And you've seen
John,
it.
when you do it, John.
12-1.
12.1,
15.
no,
Twelve,
no,
it's
but that
12,
comes to the
180.
15.9.
Ultimately, yes.
But you
And
can't
we're
describe
preparing
it as painting. You can't say we're gonna.
Partially paint,
We're gonna-
partially floor, partially
But partially
ceiling,
paint means
partially
nothing.
doors, and partially.
Maybe she should prepare a draft for your review as well.
Okay, because what we have, it's not what you do, it's what you get.
But
If we partially paint, do we get a room that gives you, that allows you to actually do anything in it?
Well, it says partially painted
Partially,
building
Yeah.
with some unfinished rooms.
I get what he's saying, he wants the outcomes.
Yeah.
right, the result
Are
is,
those?
these places will be painted. These other places
Will
will
not.
not be painted.
And when we paint them, they can be used for nothing. We're just gonna paint it, and they're gonna be, if they look nice, they look great.
Get the draft started.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Hold on, though,
But what else are we putting in?
Do
these
we
spaces?
have-
There-
what do we have
spaces
for
are
backup
art
on
spaces.
those
There's-
from the estimate?
And
So
it's-
the FFE is still in there.
Right, exactly.
Oh, there's all, I mean, estimators have their breakout of those numbers. They have backup in-house, like some of the bigger trades.
No,
they
what I'm
have-
saying, but if you just had the backup for those 3 items, Joan, then you could just highlight.
Backup
the
for
area.
which,
Well, if you wanted, which one were you gonna reduce? The windows and door frames or?
yeah, I'm reducing, well, we're
No,
reducing.
but I'm
most
saying
of
is,
these.
instead of just coming, I mean, is
No,
that
I
strict?
can go to this,
I mean-
I can go to the multi-level spreadsheet and I will say which rooms potential, because it's really detailed. But
I mean, I don't know if we need to
behind
do
this
the
thing,
gym.
right, you've got tabs behind this that say this and this.
Not behind that, I mean, there is the
There's-
estimate from, there's the backup from the estimators.
I know.
Yeah.
I got it.
But I think you could just get started, because that's gonna drive the conversation. Like, is this,
Right.
that's a gym? No, okay, then we could say partially finished gym, unfinished gym with no floors.
Or
I
no,
think we
Jim.
have a framework, let's put a draft together and then it'll be easier to work the draft.
I just think we wanna, when we write in the narrative, it's gotta be cautious of what we're leaving.
And
People are gonna expect to have a gym that they could use, so I wouldn't
Right.
be eliminating the
I
gym.
think you need to be explicit about what's not.
That's what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying.
This is, these are the
Exactly.
things that.
The multi-purpose room on the lower level won't be painted.
Right, right, I mean,
That's,
that's,
but the gym will be closed off.
That's not gonna work.
And you're not gonna be able to play pickleball, or there'll be no lines. We'll open the gym, but there are no lines for pickleball.
Bring your own painter's tape.
way up.
Right, but
Okay.
that's the tap.
Yeah,
That's it.
but I think we already went through that, right?
Yeah.
Well,
We did.
we have to get into it. We need to, outcomes,
Sunset.
not what you get, what you can do. I mean, that's not what you're doing, but what you get.
And what you don't get.
So we want to say to the public who may be watching, if you're raising your hand, we don't have the capability to invite you in to speak. Oh, we do.
Yeah,
Where is
if
it?
you
Can I?
This,
Okay, can you bring it over to me then?
yeah, but it's only John and AJ and us, so there's no.
So the public's left.
Exactly.
Okay, the public has gone on to the next.
Correct.
Okay. So since we have no public comment. it's-
Okay, I think I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, and who's opposed? No, that's it. 5,
Okay, so we can, you gonna kill it?
I killed it.
all right. And Tom, no,
Bye, John, thank you.
Have a good evening, John.
Tom, I